Hello and welcome back to the Data Privacy Lawyer. My name is Funmi Owolabi and I'm the principal attorney at this law firm. Today we're going to be looking at a cookie policy. We're going to be doing a review. I want to see what the posture is. So we're not going to be looking at the landing page like we traditionally do. Chevrolet sells cars. I want to just take a look at how they're dealing or handling their cookie policies. So we can manage our preferences, and we've been presented with this cookie banner. You can see here that I don't have the opportunity to opt out of essential cookies because they're necessary for the core functionality of the website. But for the others, like performance and functionality, analytics, advertising, and social networking cookies, same with unclassified, I love this category. And I'll tell you why I love the unclassified cookies category. What happens sometimes is there are cookies that a business realizes are third-party cookies. They're not entirely sure what the functionality is, but based on how the technology works in the background, and we won't get into the technical specificities, but sometimes businesses, when they do an audit of their cookies, they'll realize that there are cookies that are related to the website that they're not able to categorize. So what happens is they neglect them because they don't fit within performance, analytics, or advertising. They neglect those cookies, but cookies are personal data. And a business needs to make sure that they articulate their privacy practices related to personal data of which cookies are. So I love that they've put unclassified cookies. This is really very excellent. Now let's save our preferences. I will say another thing, this was last updated August 26, 2025. This is excellent. This is excellent because we can see here that Chevrolet takes cookies seriously. One, because we've been presented with the cookie banner, but two, this policy is being updated on a periodic basis as far as I'm concerned. Now, I don't know when it was updated prior to 2025, but the fact that this was updated last year shows that the business recognizes the changes in the privacy laws and they want to make sure that they're adhering to them as it relates to their external facing statements. So when we talk about these policies that are on the site, we're looking at anything that you're showing your consumers. There's a lot that goes on in the background that Chevrolet's privacy counsel is probably working on. Cookie policy and privacy policy dictate. This is what our business is doing internally. There's a lot that a consumer doesn't see, right? When it comes to some of these products and services, there are processes that Chevrolet has as it relates to their business operation. When they're selling a pre-owned car, the type of data they collect related to the pre-owned car, selling and trading. There's internal documents about how personal data is utilized internally. What the cookie policy and privacy policy dictate is what we're doing internally. Consumers, this is what you need to know about those practices. That's what they're showing. So this one explains how Chevrolet of Culver City uses cookies and similar technologies to recognize you when you visit the website. So they've qualified it. We know that the cookies that we've seen relate to usage of the website. You might see this differently for other businesses. It really does depend how the business wants to structure it. That's something they have to talk about with their counsel. We've got a definition, that's great. Why do we use cookies? We use first and third party cookies for several reasons. Some cookies are required for technical reasons in order for the website to operate, essential or strictly necessary. Other cookies also enable us to track and target the interests of our users to enhance our experience. Okay, how can I control these? You have the right to decide whether to accept or reject the cookies. That's excellent, and this is in line with the data protection laws. Now, I'm pretty sure that Chevrolet operates globally. However, this appears to be one that is specific to Culver City, which is in California, right? Now, I don't know the jurisdictions that they cover outside of California. I presume that they sell cars in California. However, it may be they sell them outside of California. And like I've mentioned in other audits before, personal data is specific to a resident. It doesn't matter that you are located in California. It matters the residents that you provide goods and services to. Privacy law follows the resident. The privacy law where the individual is residing follows them. And you as a business need to adhere to the law that follows the individual and the data that you process for them. Okay, they've listed the essential cookies and they've listed the time. I'm going to talk a little bit about the expiration and why you might see this as a consumer when you are looking on these cookie policies, if that's something that you do. No personal data should be retained indefinitely. It's a foundational principle of data protection laws. There should always be an expiration or deletion date. You should never have data on an indefinite basis. Now, I think it's really good from a transparency perspective that we can see that Chevrolet lists how long this particular cookie is retained for. I also love that they've articulated the purpose. This is really important. You should never collect personal data without having a purpose for collecting it, right? What that means in translation is if your business sends out mail packages and the mail packages are going to the customers, the only data that you should be collecting from the customer is data that allows you to send out those mail packages. Name, address, and maybe their email. Maybe, okay? You need to look at what is the minimally required personal data for me to fulfill a particular purpose, which is why listing the purpose is so important. And it's a really good idea to articulate the cookies. Now, these change frequently. Some businesses won't list the cookies because they change so much on the site. But I think one thing that's very good is this was last updated in 2025. So this is likely a true, clear picture of the cookies that are being used related to the website for Chevrolet. The other thing you need to think about is how long do we actually need to keep the cookies for? There may be an internal retention policy that Chevrolet has. I don't know that for a fact. But where it says expires in 29 days, the business needs to make sure, or businesses in general need to make sure that if they're writing that a particular cookie expires in a certain period of time, there needs to be a justification as to why it's expiring in that period of time. Sometimes businesses will have arbitrary periods of time for retaining data. You need to have a justification on why you're retaining it for that period of time. They've listed the purpose here. As long as the period of time that you're retaining personal data is necessary for the business, then you have good justification. But you should always have a justification. It shouldn't be arbitrary, like we're just going to keep names for 10 years. Why? Do you need it for 10 years? That's what you need to really be looking at. So they also have some information on control of cookies. That's really good and really useful. They've listed most of the popular browsers. So you as an individual can figure out how to control the cookies on your browser. We also had that preference center too. So we've already opted out of all of the ones that we don't want collected as we interact with the site. And they also have given additional information so you can understand some of these advertising networks that give you the opportunity to opt out targeted advertising. I'm going to scroll to the bottom. I'll tell you why. In the United States, specifically in California, there is legislation, the CCPA, that dictates that organizations should put a link saying do not sell or share my information. Let's go to the bottom and quickly check. Interesting. So the button related to privacy choices is not working. And I also don't see a button on the Chevrolet site that says do not sell or share my personal information. So maybe that's something that they can consider. Maybe that's something that's specific to privacy. But again, cookies are personal data. So it really should exist at the bottom. That's an update that needs to be made. Let's go back down. I want to take a look at the last couple provisions for this cookie policy. Okay. Do you serve targeted advertising? So the last portion of this cookie policy relates to do you serve targeted advertising? And I've actually scrolled to the end. There's no way for me to scroll further on the cookie policy. A little bit of this has been cut off, so that might be something that needs to be adjusted on the website. But as far as we're understanding, they say here, third parties may serve cookies on your computer or mobile device to serve advertising through our site. These companies may use information about your visits to this and other websites in order to provide relevant advertisements about goods and services that you may be interested in. Now, my question would be, what are you doing to mitigate the targeted advertising, and how does it impact a consumer, with relation to selling? Definitely sharing is occurring, which is why we need that disclaimer at the bottom saying, do not sell or share my personal information, particularly where Chevrolet of Culver City is located in California, and the CCPA definitely applies. So I think overall there's lots of really good things on this cookie policy, particularly the fact that this has even been reviewed last month. So if your business is looking at creating a cookie policy and you are looking for a data protection counsel to help you draft this so that you're compliant, take a look at the description below. I would love to work with your business, and I'll see you in another cookie policy audit.